everyone. Welcome to episode 19 of the Ethos Australia 40k podcast. I'm sure I did that in the wrong order, but that's okay. It's us. It's yeah. No, I won't say that as my gold. Your boy. But it's me, Simon, and we've got my favorite co-host. Well, my only co-host, but my favorite one nonetheless. Hayden Walduck. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. Good. Even though I'm the only one, I'll still take the favourite. So,
excellent. And hopefully you guys can hear me because I just realised I had the wrong window open. But that's all right. We'll continue it on. This is the professional podcast that you have come to expect. Anyway, I lie. Alex is my favourite. No, I didn't say that.
you take that back.
You son of a bitch. No. All right, cool. So this is part one of this week. I don't know. Well, whenever we do these things, this is part one. We're going to be talking about Masters, history of Masters, Queensland Masters specifically. Some interesting stories about Masters. I might talk a little bit about Australian Masters because there is some crossover there. And Duck and I, we've done both many times. What we noticed in some of the Queensland chat, there's a bunch of new blokes, which is fantastic. We always love seeing new people. And they don't really have the full history of stuff that we've done in the past. And it's not to say they have to, but it's always good to know, if something's been done, what were the positives, what were the negatives of it, and if you do try it again, not to say you shouldn't, but if you do try it again, you get a data point about what happened. So this first part we're going to be doing Queensland Masters, Masters type events, and the second part I have a special guest that I'll keep it a mystery for now, and I'll do a second intro for him when he comes on, but I'll be recording in a couple of days' time with him. So thank you very much for him in the future. Ooh. But you'll see in the title what the actual topic is, so it's not going to be a mystery, but right now I don't know exactly what we're going to be talking about, but I do know it's going to be a crossover. This is I'm sure I'm getting everybody wet between the eyes right now. No, not the legs. I'm rambling. It's only 3 minutes in. I love it. We're going to be doing a crossover between kind of office and management in a team and office work. Like in the office world, and 40k. Doesn't that sound fascinating, Duck?
I'm just drooling at the thought of it, But for the part one, you guys get to also take our hand and go for a little bit of a stroll down.
Stroll down what, mate?
Sorry, my mic cut out.
Go for it.
We get to go for a bit of a stroll through history, and you guys can see what it was like before you may have come into the scene, or if you'd never been invited or been to a Masters. Good little snippet of what to expect if you do aspire to get to that level.
In the before time, in the long ago.
Yeah, the old world.
Look, a couple of us played old world stuff before we joined 40k. I know my very first intro was I played one game of old world. It was at a demo, at a Games Workshop, and there was a unit of Bretonian archers or something stupid like that, right? And they moved the model just to the side of it, and I said, all right, I want to shoot that thing. And they said, you can't because you're not looking at it. And I went, yeah, I'm going to go play 40k.
Yeah, look, I used to play a bit of old world fantasy with my 40k circle-based demons, and I just blue-tacked them onto movement trays that were unpainted, unsanded, and it used to drive people mad.
No, you're just showing that 40k is the master race, you see.
Yeah, and who knows, bring it back for Sigmar. We'll put some Votan in Sigmar and just use them as character and overlords. Just take some piss.
I love it. And I love how you don't call it dwarves. You just go, no, it has to be the new name. You probably also say Astra Militarum, don't you?
Oh, of course.
Ah, oh,
That's how they're listed on the app. That's how they should be said.
oh, I'm gonna. If I could, I'd go to.
It's not Eldar. It's Eldari, mate. You're an Eldari player.
Oof. Oh no, it'd be Ashuriani. That's the actual.
Right, we're going to take a short 5-minute break for Simon and I to go box on in his backyard. He's clearly fuming.
Yeah, look, I've got the aircon on and a little blankie on me. I've actually heated it up now because I'm almost mad. All right, so what has been happening, mate? Like we are. This is great. We're 6 minutes in, and we've just started the intro. Oh, I love it.
Best intro of your life. You guys better enjoy this. You know, we obviously put our hard work and everything into this script that we have that we're looking at that we're completely neglecting. But yes, life in 40k. I did a bit of a mad rush of painting before Masters, because I did want it to look cohesive and nice on the table. I feel like at those sort of events you have to put your best foot forward with your models and your play style, and yeah, I couldn't have unpainted or unfinished models in my list. But in classic Hayden fashion, I sold all my crisis suits like 3 weeks beforehand because I spontaneously decided that I did not like them anymore, and I reprinted myself 6 new crisis suits, which hadn't even been primed yet on Monday or Tuesday, so 4 days before the actual event. So had a bit of a mad dash of painting last week, and I'm getting married in a couple of days, so naturally that took a back seat while I got my Tower Army finished, and now I can get back to doing some wedding planning.
Well, knowing your fiance, wouldn't most of the planning actually have been done like 6 months ago or something like that?
Yeah, I just had to order some little flowers or something. The throwy flowers.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Easy.
Well, you could have asked, let's say Eric to pick it up. It's right next to the markets. That's where I got my flowers for my wedding.
Oh look, yeah, Eric can pick it up, and then he can just bring them down with him when he comes to the wedding. That'd be great.
And then he just gets like a bucket of flowers and he just throws at you because there's your fucking flowers.
So here you go, mate. I picked these yellow ones from my front yard. Sweet. Brought me a bucket full of weeds.
Yeah, I just mowed. There you go. They're a little bit green.
What about you, mate? What's been going on with life in 40k?
Life, just living it up, taking a bit of a break from 40k. I haven't played because my normal gaming group, well, the normal gaming group as in I usually have a friend or two come over every Friday. We haven't played for a few weeks after the Teams event that happened, that we did the last podcast on. And yeah, I think the last 40k game I played was a week and a half ago, or a week ago. It was on TTS, and I've now finished all. In real life, it's been almost 3 weeks, but yeah, on TTS I did one, and that was it. However, saying that, playing Assimilation Swarm, so I've had 2 games of that. I am enjoying it. It's interesting. It's a very interesting detachment in Tyranids. I am just a bit sad though that Tyranids outside of the Horde / in Erik's hands are not the powerhouse that's, Eldar is just in general. And
oh, boo-hoo. Look at me. I got the first codex and it's not broken. Fucking wah. Keep complaining.
I'm just disappointed. Anyway, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Life, just switching jobs. Fucking still in the same organization, but just different jobs. And I've switched in the last 2.5 months. I've been in 3 different teams, which is always interesting. And just backfilling different people because I talked about this with my kids, but this I call it the curse of competency. It's like when you're actually competent, people notice, and then when something shit happens, they go, "Oh crap, we need to fix this. Hey, you look reasonably competent. Can you come over here and fix our problem?" Yeah, I guess. And then you do well, and it's like, "Oh crap, now there's something else." Son of a.
Yes, the burden of being Mr. Fix-It.
Yes, it's interesting. You get opportunities, but very little stability, and so the step back from 40k is partly because we've talked about the stuff about 40k, and my not 100% enthusiasm of 10th at the moment. Possibly change after half of the codexes are out. Once the kind of game is actually, in my opinion, a little bit more interesting. Okay, that's my opinion. Everyone else seems to be loving it. Fuck, I wish we could do some of these in person, because I'd love you just to see your laugh sometimes. And half because I'm busy at work and or being fucking sick. What's really cool though is I have had second time having COVID, and I seem to bounce back reasonably well. Like I usually only get sick, for about 3 days, 3-4 days, and then it lingers a bit, but it's not like I'm completely fucked, which is good. I am glad that the world didn't treat this as a Ebola. Wait, it did. Never mind. Let's continue on.
Any sort of like sickness, COVID, even just the flu, I get like hectic man flu, and it just lays me out. I'm like an old Victorian era man dying. Like, Ash is like, shut up. I'm like,
Does she bring you the leeches?
No.
Oh, that's what you need to do, mate. You need to throw some leeches on on your back, and get the vapors out.
They're not stupid enough to drink my blood.
They have heard the thing that the mega AIDS and stuff like that.
I'm like, no, fuck this. Put us back in the bucket of bleach.
I love it. Alrighty, I think that is now. I don't know if we're going to purposely make this, but I think this is now officially the longest intro we've done, which is fantastic in my book. So, main topic. Queensland Masters. Do you want to take us through the journey that is, the history of Queensland Masters or Masters events in Australia?
Look, as far as I can remember, I didn't play too many Masters in my early days. I got an invite to an Oz Masters, probably I'd say sort of end of 5th edition. Did sort of mediocre, came back and we're focusing on our Queensland scene, around the 2015, 2016 mark. And then once it came into sort of the peak year of 6th edition before it sort of blew up and got a little bit crazy, they did another Oz Masters that I ended up winning. But as far as Queensland Masters, we had a bit of a break for, I think it was a year or two. There was a bit of a hiatus where we just didn't run one. And in the last couple of years, it started to pick back up, and that comes down to Josh from Gladiator Gaming picking it back up as the Queensland rep, or the previous Queensland rep. And he ran 3 straight years of solid Masters under a couple of different sort of style formats.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to this year when Ollie has taken over the Queensland rep position, and his duty is to organise Queensland Masters, which was done out at Epic Games in Ipswich. Just a little 8-person, 3 rounds, 1 undefeated takes home the gold, and then just point count back for the rest of the podium.
Yeah. And so you've done, you've won Queensland Masters now twice, and you've done a bunch of them, and you've won the Australian Masters once, and you said you've been twice, have you?
I've been 3 times to Oz Masters, and I've been to Queensland Masters 3 times, and I've won Australian once, and I've won Queensland twice.
Very good.
Just the last 2 years.
Excellent. Now, I think, and I probably should have double checked this on my YouTube channel, but the my old one that I used to do all my recordings on, but I think my first Masters was actually the Australian Masters, because I came second at some event, and then I got my invite kind of passed down, and like no one wanted to go down to Canberra, and this is when it was, I think Diffie actually organised it. I actually played him that's when I met him, and I played him for the first time. But I can't remember who actually organised it. But I just remember playing Diffie, and that's where the kind of story between us about the Doom and Melantai comes, because that was my first game with him, and he just couldn't. He kept on killing it down to like one wound, and then it used to just suck up all the wounds and full heal, and he just got so triggered against it. That's actually where I met Antonello for the first time as well. Anyway,
Yeah, I know Antonello ran a couple in Melbourne.
Okay, excellent. But he might have been the organizer. I remember playing against him in the game before Diffie, and Antonello put like a bunker with not a bunker, the Fortress of Redemption with a whole bunch of stuff inside, and he just placed it on the table and said, "Okay, yep, that's my army." And I was like, "Okay."
Like, okay, this dude's on the spectrum.
That's right. Now, oh shit. I don't want to say, or that was a different person, or it was either Antonello was either him or he had the Ovessa star. It was one of the two. Now I really want to go. I'll probably give an update. Actually, I'm going to write it down. Update in the show notes. I will make sure I let you guys know was if Antonello, and I'll put a link to the actual YouTube video. If Antonello was the one with the big Fortress of Redemption game, or if he was the game with the Ovessa Star. I can't remember which one, but I know I recorded it, so it's all good. Fucking I love my sidetracks. So when I'm
for the people who don't know what a Ovessa Star is, there used to be a unit of 3 Riptides. They came in units of 3, or 1 to 3, and then you could add a special character Riptide to it, and then another character into it. So you'd have like 4 Riptides in one big unit. Because there was 3 or more, they got +1 to hit. They'd shoot twice. And they'd have all these buffs, layered buffs from these characters joining to it. And it would just sit on a Sky Shield, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was the Ovessa Star or not, but I do remember Space Marine characters could join Tau units, or vice versa. Because apparently they were best buddies, and yeah. That was stupid.
Yeah, you'd have like Drago defending your Crisis Suit units. It was hilarious. Anyway, what's Tau bad at? Combat. Let's add combat beasts into them.
Anyhow, yeah. So what I noticed, game people, this is our podcast, so that you get the view into the world champions. That's right, the insane stuff that goes on in our heads. In my normal, Simon in the Wild, I ramble on about stuff, right? Now, when I'm getting over an illness, I got sick earlier this week, and my brain doesn't work as good, and so I ramble even more, as per this. So this is raw Simon right now. Not to.
If you're one of those people that sort of like, if you zone out where you listen to podcasts and you only catch every sort of like 5 minutes every 20 minutes, you're probably going to get this pretty uninterrupted podcast episode then, because you're just going to zone out on all Simon's rubbish he talks.
Oh, I love it. Back when I played WoW, mate, they used to be calling me Gorky Story. Like, I was fucking doing this at like 20. Like, 18, 19, 20-year-old Simon was doing this.
I'm shocked.
And they used to, literally called it Gorky Stories. It was, anyway. Shout out to the Elite. They're still one of the best group of guys that I grew up with, so to speak. Okay, so back to Masters. So I went down to Queensland, Australian Masters, I think, before Queensland Masters. Any invite to that? I think I've done 3 Australian Masters. I've won one of them, I know that. It was funny. I took down my recording equipment. This is down in Victoria. And I recorded the first game, and then all my other games were all on stream. because they just wanted different people on the stream, and it was very, very interesting. And yeah, I that's where I won the big Nerf gun that the kids play with still to this day. Thank you very much, Diffie. That was yeah, it was very, very nice. Queensland Masters, I don't think I've ever actually won. I've come second a couple of times, and I think it's twice, but I've lost my 2 seconds, both to playing against Eric, and those are the two that he won. So I don't actually think I can't remember. Like it's like I've done it from like 10 years. So but it's just really interesting. I've gone to Australian Masters and won, but I don't think I've actually won Queensland Masters, which is very, very interesting. Maybe the Australian meta is not as strong as the Queensland meta.
Well, I don't know, because from memory, I think Erik's won Queensland Masters twice, but he hasn't won an Oz Masters yet. So, what that tells me is Erik is just a little local hero. That must be it. He's just a hometown hero. I'm putting it out there.
Oh, this is what that song is. He's just a hometown boy.
Yeah, he's never been in Top Potted Uprising. He's never been to Uprising, but he's never been in the Top Potted Uprising.
Oh, that's just like saying he's never done well at LVO, like fucking Duck and Simon all in the 20s, and oh, jeez.
Yeah, he's never done meth. He's not even a junkie.
He's never even had sex with another man. What's up? Jesus Christ. Oh my god. I love your logic.
Yeah, that's how.
This is
that's
logic.
That's our club captain. Shout out to the captain of the club.
Absolutely. We love Erik, but fuck, that is duck logic at its absolute finest. I won't share what we posted, but they just, it's just like, why did you cut down that tree? Why did you eat that sandwich? I don't know. Okay.
You can't argue with my logic, though. It's pretty spot on.
I'm definitely not going to argue with that. So, the different styles, as Duck was saying, Masters has had a whole bunch of different styles, both at Australian Masters and Queensland Masters. It's done its own big event, right? So it's been like Queensland Masters, all first, and I think first and second got invites, and then all first got invites, but then if first had one, it got passed down to the second, etc. And it was, generally like 16 to 32 people. So it's a reasonable size event. If again, remember 5-6 years ago, the events weren't always the biggest, and it was just the Masters. So we've done that style. We've also done, as Duck was saying, and I remember some of the fun ones at the Pink. Was the Masters was a small one, which was maybe say 16 players, and then there was a scrubcon, which was maybe say 8 players or another 16 players, so all up 32. And the winner of scrubcon got an automatic invite to the next year's Masters, and the winner of Masters got an automatic invite to the first 2 players in essence. And I think they even actually had to play first. I can't remember that next bit, but I do remember the automatic invite. Because I played in scrubcon 1 year, and I also have played in Queensland Masters a bunch. And that worked as well. That was generally interesting. We've also had Masters as a tie-in to a bigger event altogether. And I know the Australian Masters did something like that as well, where if you lost a game, you would get knocked down into a normal tournament. So they had a normal tournament running, plus a Masters event, but it was a single knockout in essence. And then the Masters event, so this is the one that I won, the Masters event finished in round 4, and then round 5 you would play for the whole tournament in essence. So you would play the undefeated of the other part of the tournament in essence, and so as it turned out, I won both because I played Stewie Trainer for the whole thing, and beat him, my Dark Elder versus his Tyranids, and I got 2 big Nerf guns, which was cool. It was really
Yeah, suck on
interesting.
that, Stewie.
Yeah, it was really interesting trying to get that home as well. um, so there have been different style events. The ones that are my favorite still to this day, in essence, were kind of like the one that happened at Epic this year's, or last year's, which was at Eric's, which was just a. It's not impromptu, but it's just like a small one. It's a 1 dayer, 3 rounds for 8 players, knockout almost. It's almost knockout. It's like generally after you've lost your first one, definitely after you've lost your second one, you're not playing anymore. In essence, and you can do it as a barbecue or just at a local gaming store, invite only. In essence, I mean anyone can come and watch, of course, and hang out and stuff like that. But it makes it as a thing that you can just smash out in 1 day, and it's still the kind of top players. And I guess, and before we get into kind of solution mode here, I just the the ebbs and flows of what the Masters event was, because again, remember, as you absolutely rightly said, some years it didn't happen at all, and I think it's because it's organized, and in essence, this is one of the main jobs of the what's it called, the rep, is to kind of pay attention to the community and see, what is the interest, how many events actually happened, how involved are they, etc. If there's only 4 or 5 events like that really were happening, like in some of those years that it didn't happen, like the Masters event didn't actually happen, can you get 8 players and really call it a Masters or not? It's that's the bit that you have to kind of pay attention to as the rep. Like I think I ran one of the Masters when I was rep, and one of the years I put the invite, like I called out, but no one was particularly interested. It's like it ebbs and flows, and you have to really just pay attention to the community. Whereas if we've got like the last couple of years, fucking a million events, then you can actually say, yes, we actually have 16 players who have separately won events. Let's do a 16 player slash maybe make it a bit bigger. So I don't think we can just make it or formalize it. You know what I mean? Like we can't. I don't think when we get to talking about some of these solutions or some of the ideas, just exploring the idea more, we can. I don't think we can just say it has to be this or this style, because if the community aren't interested or won't back it, then you're just trying to force something that no one's interested in, or you're trying to force a style that doesn't suit what the community that you serve, in essence. And so that's just something to take into mind. And this has been the history of Masters. Ooh.
Like some years, the problem was we didn't have 8 events throughout the year to invite 8 winners. Like we didn't even have 6 events to invite, or 7 events to invite the previous winner and 7 event winners. We just didn't have them. There'd be a couple of QGG events. There'd always be like their Oktoberfest, their Winter Warfest. Maybe they'd sneak another one in. Maybe they'd sneak an Anzac Cup in if the army blokes are able to do it. And then depending on where they did it was, if it was accessible or not. Sometimes they did it on the army base at Enogra. Bit of travel and bit of a pain in the ass to get in and out of and actually play at. So, there just wasn't the invite. There wasn't an invite process. There wasn't sort of any charter around it. It was all sort of shrouded in a bit of mystery of, or maybe I'll get an invite, or maybe it won't go ahead, maybe it will go ahead, and no one really knew until you got the message in your box.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So we'll keep talking about this afterwards, but let's talk about this year. Take us through the journey, mate.
This year I earned my invite from winning last year, and then last year I earned my invite from winning the Masters Open that ran alongside the Masters in 2021. So I sort of had a nice progression of, I didn't earn an invite to 2021 Masters, so I played in the Open, won that, got an invite, won the one I got an invite to, got re-invited, and then won the one I got re-invited to, and it was quite nice because it actually took the pressure off of not needing to go to any events to have that secured invite. Where at the start of the year they sort of released a bit of a schedule and said, Josh said these are the ones that will get an invite, and it sort of shuffled and changed throughout the year, but it stuck pretty.
Kind of like I think Liam talked about this on Normal Blokes, which was because he was one of the first people in the world to get an invite. He could organise his trip, to the Atlanta thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas people who just got their golden ticket a month before, then had to scramble to, and Jez, he didn't actually get the time off from work to be able to go and do it. Even though he won the OCC event that actually gave one, the whole year led to that thing. He got his ticket and then couldn't get time off from work, and so I know what you're saying.
It's that'd be tragic. That'd probably break my heart. So yeah, that's sort of the roadmap that led me to this year, and I was going back to defend my title. Last year I beat Liam for the Queensland Masters that was held at Erik's house, and that was a good little intimate 8-man event. We all paid a couple of bucks entry. Erik got some catering that gave me and Liam food poisoning. Liam and I both ended up in the hospital on the same day for a couple of days because we both ate the same chicken that was in front of us. So that was
everyone else's chicken was fine. It was literally
everyone else's was fine.
Five or six separate chickens, and the one that you guys were both eating from, apparently not so good. Everyone else's, no problem.
Yeah, Liam and I stand next to each other because we knew we were playing the last round. We're just doing the typical pre-game. What do you got in the list? What do you do? What is it? What are your tricks? Rah rah rah. And as we're doing that, there's one of the catered chickens in front of us. We're like, oh, we'll start breaking that down, throwing it on our sandwich, and tasted fine. And I think his triggered Monday morning. Mine was Monday afternoon. We both got out of hospital Wednesday afternoon. So, yes, don't eat the chicken.
I don't know what you're saying, man. I think he's just soft. It's all good.
Oh, yeah. Chicken was a bit chewy, bit pink in the middle, bit medium rare. But, I'm no chef, so I just roll with the punches.
All right, so that's how you got your invite. And what was your kind of prep going into the event? And kind of not just what you were taking, but what did you do? Any reps you did, etc., etc.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to take Tao just to try to go back to back both with Tao, and I was sort of keeping an eye on the meta. I was watching all the Atlanta games on stream. I was sort of keeping up with the WTC meta and helping those guys prep, but I didn't have the time to play games as much as I would have liked. And then, with my motorbike accident in August, I had less and less time or less and less accessibility to play games. So I had to do a lot of theory crafting. So my list was pure theory, just matching and cultivating things within the list to do a certain job. So when I sort of went through my list with Geordie from the Normal Blokes, who came over to my house for a practice game, I was sort of running through my list because he was playing Vanguard Marines, which is, the sort of archetype that I was not tailoring, but, catering to play at the event. We were sort of going through my list and we're playing through the game, and he's like, look, everything sort of has a purpose. So, I had Dark Strider in there just by himself to hide within a Devilfish because he's got a no deep strike within 12 aura, so it gets rid of your Inceptors stealing your objectives. Which is not a common pick in competitive Tau lists. I also had the Kroot Fast Talker Warband, the Kill Team Warband. In their index, they're perfectly fine to run, but they have the Infiltrator ability, and it's like a big 12-man unit because it's 10 Kroot and 2 Hounds. So it's just 12 bodies that will just infiltrate in a big line across the middle of the table just to block your Vanguard Marines infiltrating a Death Company or a combat threat on your doorstep, as well as just being a generically good midfield screen.
And
Um,
especially, like, and I've noticed this even with Tyranids, you have to do this. It's a World Eaters. A World Eaters that go first, and that's just in your
yeah,
asshole from turn one it's annoying. Let's just say.
it's so annoying, and you just don't want that, right? If you have one unit that you don't really care about because you can't be wrapped, you can't be pinned, like not easily, not as easily as what you used to be. They have a 6 up arms, they just die. Like you can't
Yeah.
even sort of try to funnel less attacks through because you'll still kill a few. You got to have that like speed bump there. And then I sort of just packed the rest of the list with like good quality 2 and 3 damage and a bit of 4 damage in there. Through like iron riptides and hammerheads and plasma rifles on my crisis suits. And once you sort of you lean into that power armor sort of profile, and you're kind of killing everything that walks in power armor. Like you're killing normal marines, you're killing chaos marines, you're killing, your flavors of chaos like your T Suns, your Death Guard. Like none of them have that layer of complexity on them anymore that changes you need for your weapons. Like your Death Guard don't have your -1 damage and shooting, so you don't care about having to take damage 3 to get through the 2 wound marines and that sort of stuff. So it was all a pretty easy kind of meta to cater for from a Tau perspective.
I like it. So that was kind of what you. So you made the decision to go Tau just from a pure. I play Tau and I'm going to try and go back to back. But then when
Yeah, I mean,
when you're trying to make
like
it work, it was more. They're actually good in the meta right now. If I'm focusing on that.
yeah, 100%. Like I could have played Space Marines. I have a massive amount of Space Marines, and I'm just sort of going through and 3D printing some bits to bring them up to date in the meta. I didn't have any gladiators, for example, and I only had flame regressors. So I'm just going through and just sort of giving my Space Marine range a bit of an update. I definitely could have played them, and they did quite well. John Lennon represented them quite well over in America, only losing to essentially Manny for the top spot, which is also playing a Marine flavor in Chaos Space Marines. Again, with Chosen being 3 wounds, it was good to have the plasma for 3 damage instead of leaning into the cyclics like most Tau players do, because then you're spamming 2 damage. You got a couple of 3 damage models kicking around, especially with like aggressors and stuff like that. I sort of wanted the 3 damage, so it was plasma and ion time. So ion hammerheads and ion riptides.
Excellent. I like it. I'm just thinking about it as you're talking. I think it's a good pick. Do you find, and maybe it's just because I don't know the exact stat lines of these weapons, that vehicles or spam vehicles or like knights shit like that are a problem or not? Not at all.
Knights would probably if I had to play Knights at the event, it probably would have been an issue. Like the Riptide's Ion overcharging is still winning Knights on 5s. Like it's 4 damage, so it will sneak a couple through, and the ones that do go through, obviously take a big chunk out of them. The Tau's sort of best anti-tank is like Hammerhead railguns or broadside railguns. Or Seeker missiles, but they're all sort of one shot with D6 plus 1 sort of damage. So that very swingy damage. So I just thought, might as well spam the 3 and 4, the consistent damage, and you have to win on 5s. You have to win on 5s. You just chew through them and get around them by move blocking with the trash that's in the list, sort of doubling down as being your movement blockers and your secondary scorers.
I like it. So it's kind of similar-ish to some of the issues you're having with the Grey Knights. Like, can you kill a tank? Well, kind of, but
yes, will it take me 5 turns? Yes. Will it help?
However, with the Grey Knights, if you spiked, you would still maybe just kill a vehicle. Whereas with the Tau, if you spike, you fucking overkill like multi vehicles.
Yeah, I found like if I had a turn where I've spiked some of my shooting, I'm like, oh, he just got tabled. That's cool. So that was fun.
Yeah, I like that. Like if you've only got a couple of, like if you're good, this is kind of, and this is also like thinking teams, and we've talked about this before, but it's worth repeating. If your list is good against the majority of the meta, with some clear, we'll use the colloquial terms like clear reds, like clear bad matchups, but you can mitigate the clear matchups through opportunities of potential spike, if you know what I mean. Like if you're just shit against a couple of matchups, and there's no way to win against them, then it's then you just have to be protected more. But if your greens are super green, like your wins are fantastic against most armies, but just do not let me play against those two armies, you're probably still useful in the team. You just have to be protected. However, if you're great, not the absolute best, but great against everyone, and okay, not particularly good against two less, but you can still do potentially okay by spiking, then if you can kind of tweak your list slightly to mitigate the badness in those matchups a little bit, or lean into the opportunities to spike, which Tau absolutely do. From turn 3 onwards, it's like, woohoo, let's get some sixes, baby.
Yeah.
And like Tau, Tau epitomizes kind of that concept, which is some lists I'm going to struggle against, but if I spike, they're fucked. And the extra exploding as the game goes on, having hard to hit units, and just like chasing them down, when you finally get to them, then they can spike even more, and then you've in essence built your list to, here's some roadblocks so I can get to my spike phase. Like I like the dynamic of your list.
Yeah, I played one test game against Rory with Death Guard sort of traditional list you see going around at the moment. So it was Morty, Rodigus, like 50 Death Guard in Rhinos, and just some chaff, like a unit of Urglings, a unit of Boxwalkers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 50 Death Guard and Rhinos, two relatively tanky monsters. And on paper, it can be kind of annoying because you need the multiple activations to crack the Rhino, then kill the guys that get out. But, if they get out behind a wall, they get a free reign of shooting or free turn of doing whatever they want. It can be a bit annoying. We got to turn 3, and I had a little spike up on one of my shootings. I'm like, oh, cool. Everything's just going to die. I got to the point where I was like, oh, look, Riptide will take a pod shot at Morty, and ended up one tap at Morty because he spiked. I was like, oh, cool. Well, that was fun.
Yeah. There is, and possibly we would talk about this in a different episode, but there is a list concept of exactly that, of leaning into the opportunities of spiking. Like I know, my elder list that I took to the ATC, like this year's ATC that we won, my elder list was like that, where, because I took the Children of Prophecy one to reroll, 1s and 2s on the psychic chest. We're playing 9th ed, guys. Ooh, for the anyway. In the way back when, 5 months ago, 6 months ago. Yeah.
Still in 2023.
That's right. We're still the same year. Anyway, there were absolutely, like, I had a couple of bad matchups. But I did the same thing. Like, I see so many similarities in that kind of list concept. And now that you're actually talking about it, it's coming into place. Where I eventually moved my list from where it was to the place where I was good against a lot of different armies, and I had lots of greens, but I had a couple of reds. But I made a couple of tweaks to those so that the reds became oranges, right? And I had opportunities to spike. And I picked the Children of Prophecy versus whatever it was, so that I could, when I'm doing my smites, so I had like 5 or 6 smites, I could line up some big fucker, and rather than doing, D3 smites, I could do D6 smites, because I would, roll a 7 and flip one of the ones, or re-roll the ones. Oh, now I've got 11. Boom. and then I roll a 6, take 6 mortal wounds. Like, you've gone from, consistent chip damage to shit, I need to spike. I'm going to get lots of opportunity to spike here. Oh, look, I got 2 super smites and take 12 mortal wounds. Like, it's the same concept. You know what I mean? It's a good list that has some couple of bad matchups. You tweak your list a little bit so that you can mitigate your completely fucked matchups to be just kind of bad with the possibility of spiking. And I think what I've just described, that was my Elder list to a T. And it was, in my opinion, one of the best lists I've run in a long time, outside my Tyranid list that I took to WC. And your list, the way you're describing it, seems to be like that. It's like, it's great against the meta, couple of bad matchups. However, if I spike, which Tau can do, great. We can mitigate the fuck out of that.
Yeah, I mean, you also look at your bad matchups, right? Like, I didn't expect anyone to be playing Chaos Knights or normal Knights, and it's really only the big Knights that become like a stat-based problem to try and work out. But then you also move block them, so you're already going to be solving your problem just by generically putting in things to your list that is already going to have. Like by putting 2 units of recruit in your list, you're already solving half the issue because you're going to be move blocking, 2 different avenues. So that's always, something you need to consider as well as, yes, this is a red, but am I going to see it at the event? Probably not. Like it was part of the prep was running through the players who got an invite. And, like if Luke Pierce accepted his invite, he couldn't because he had some stuff on through the day. He'd be playing Monster Mash Demons. Erik would probably be playing a form of Tyranids. There was other factors that didn't come into play that probably would have affected the way the list changed. And even if one of those players were playing, Brody Middleton, he got an invite and he was playing up until sort of about 2 weeks before, and he sort of was a last minute pullout. The Vanguard Marines was what he was playing. It was popular, so that's what was catered for. Because I saw him as the next biggest threat to be able to take care of.
Without changing the topic too much, it's just I just want to put out there in the ether that kind of analysis of not just your opponents and you know how that people say is like, what's the terrain like, what are the missions, what your opponents, what's the meta, etc. And it's all very contextual to the event. However, as the event gets bigger and bigger, so like LVO for example, the terrain and the missions are more important than your opponents because you could be playing one of 1,000 people. Whereas if the terrain is the same terrain that all of your community has been playing for the last 2 years, or something very similar, it's not so much a terrain thing. The actual and the missions, they're generally set-ish. Some missions do skew, but the actual opponents now, in a local context, especially if we do like the small 8-man tournaments for a one-dayer, that becomes hyper-critical.
You can put more time into it too, right? Like you only got 7 more people to really sort of analyze, so you can put more time into it.
Yeah. So if did
like for a major, you're not going to cater for, like if you're going to go to LVO, you're not going to cater for what like Jordan Aiden's playing because you might not play him.
Yeah. Whereas if we ever did, if we do like the 16 or 32 player, as we get bigger and bigger on the Masters, that then becomes a little less. It then goes back to the general meta, etc., etc. You know what I mean? We'll talk about that in a second. And I just realised, and so for the people who are here at 50 minutes, we'll probably actually finish this part 1 and it'll be its own episode, and I'll do a part 2 as a separate episode.
Air quotes that you can't see.
Yeah, exactly. I love how I can do air quotes and you can hear my air quotes. I literally did air quotes.
I can hear Simon doing air quotes right now.
Yeah, that's right. I can feel it. Luke Skywalker or whoever it was is like, there's a disturbance in the force. Like, someone's farted. It's like someone.
I can feel Simon's fingers inside me. Yes.
I'm just gonna let that. That is a clippable quote. I want to just cut that and just say, here's a sneak peek of The episode coming out, I can feel Simon's fingers inside me.
Like, oh yes, buckle down, put the kids to bed, maybe put your headphones in. This one's going to be a wild ride.
That's right. Awesome. Was there anything in particular that was interesting that happened? Like, I know you played 3 great blokes. Everyone that was invited seemed to be loving it. So, was there anything in particular during the event that you just want to recap?
Not really. I played considering like the marine meta in that profile, and then ended up playing sort of sisters, Eldar, and T-Sons. So all 3 things that fell into the category of what I was tailoring to beat. So it's like all my ducks are in a row, as you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, everything sort of just played out as I sort of imagined. And the minimal test games I only had 3 sort of test games with the list. One against Rory with his 50 Death Guard and Rhinos. Another one against Brian with his Custodes. A couple of bombs and some Venatari. And then against Geordie with his Blood Angel flavoured Vanguard sort of spearhead. Other than that, I didn't get enough practice other than just theory hammering, rolling dice by myself in my office like a weirdo. I'm sure we all do that.
I absolutely have done that. Yeah, it's interesting. I think also hopefully anyone listening who's just thinking about this, you can see the process. You can take a guess, and all 40k like campaigns in essence always have an element of luck on it. Like I remember the LVO 2020 that I went to. I didn't play a single Space Marine until like until I played John Lennon. I think that was round 5. Like 30+%. This is when the fucking Iron Star, what was it? The Iron Hand Star bullshit was happening.
Yeah.
And 30%, literally 30%. So 400 people almost, because it was like 1,200 that started. 30% was Space Marines. I didn't play a single Space Marine until round 5. It was, blessed in essence. That run through. But then had I, beaten or drawn against John, it was a small loss, but it was a loss nonetheless. I would have played nothing but Space Marines. It was just like, other than Sean, it was like Sean and Space Marines. It's like that, the girl and the whole bunch of black guys behind it was like, oh god, this is not going to end well for me.
And you can sort of notice that at big events. If you have like a boogeyman in the meta and you don't play them, then round 2 you don't play them again, and you're like, oh, then round 3 don't play them again. You're like, okay, they're all filtering to the top, and I've missed them so far. So your top bracket is just going to be littered with Space Marines, because if you're not playing them and you're not playing against them, then you're knocking out everything that's not Space Marines in this example.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get to the top tables like Simon did, you're like, oh, it's like the Homer meme where you're just Eldar surrounded by Space Marines.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Awesome. All right, mate. So, future stuff, like ideas for future. I know we've kind of hinted and talked about some of the stuff that for future masters. And there's been some discussion in the Queensland chat about it, but is there anything that you want to kind of share or impart your wisdom for people talking about what the future masters should look like or should do?
Yeah, I mean, I think Masters needs to grow hand in hand with the scene that it's obviously representing. So with Queensland Masters, it needs to be escalating at the same rate as our scene. So, last year when it was at Eriks, we didn't have an abundance of events to pick from. We only had sort of just shy of a dozen events to pick your Masters players from. So then you have to start filtering out like your small RTTs down the Gold Coast that Noel went to, for example. So, when we look into the year ahead and next year's Masters, we have a couple of gaming groups through, like Josh through Gladiator, Northside Open guys, the Drop Bear guys on the Gold Coast. You got your ITA guys in Ipswich. Low Rollers put on a couple of events. Some of the local shops like Irresistible Force probably put on some events. And because the Queensland scene is growing, the Masters will go with it. So if you end up with, 15, 16 events throughout the year, maybe you rule out RTTs because maybe they're not, they might be skewing your data. But if you took everything that's not an RTT and said, all right, all 12 of these will get an invite, doesn't matter who goes to it, these 12 two-day events will get an invite, and then you're probably going to be looking at a 16-player Masters, which is more than fine because you've had 14 or so event winners throughout the year, plus last year's previous winner that gets an invite back. And then you really only need to fill a couple of slots with some backfill rankings, and you got yourself a 16-player Masters that isn't really watered down because everyone who's got an invite has either won an event or they've been consistently doing quite well at events to be up in the top brackets anyway.
Yeah.
To get like your count back invite. So,
and then linking
I think moving forward,
just to build on, linking it to a scrubcon / Masters Open, kind of like what we've both played in those before. So it gives a person who hasn't won an event but who's interested a chance in. It's like another tournament. Like a tournament's being run, you might as well go to another tournament. If you want, you play, and then throughout you're kind of nearby other players who are playing in Masters, etc. Like it was, I remember one of the scrubcons I went to, well, the one that I went to, it was good because then I was going to an event. It was just a small one. I think it was only 8 of us in the scrubcon part of it, and you'd have the game, or you might not even have the game. I had to buy in one of the rounds, and then I would go to your table or Erik's table or whatever and just watch. Like it gives exposure in essence to high level play. If you don't have, and Queensland's great because we have a lot of strong connections nowadays, but back then, like this is like 8, 9, 10 almost years ago, for newer players, because we didn't have big clubs and lots of regular games, if you were trying to get exposed to high level games, it wasn't as accessible especially for some people who didn't have good connections. I still see a value in that. I don't know if it's as useful nowadays, but I personally got value out of it.
I mean, if people are yearning for events, right? Like if they seem a bit scarce, and someone, if you want an event, then you can run like a 16-player Masters or 8-player Masters, whatever you want, and then run an RTT on the side of it, call it whatever you want, have the winner get an invite to next year's Masters if you want. You don't have to. But if all of your, or at least your top 8 players or your top 8 event winners are playing in their own little invitational, then it's sort of 8 sharks out of the pool, and you get to play an event without that sort of, I don't know if you fear like you don't want to have to play next round. Oh, I've got a W2C player, I don't want to have to play against them. Yeah, you get that sort of, I guess it's a safety net on a little side tournament where you can play without worrying about playing a big dog getting smashed, and then that's I guess that's the benefit of having a little side event.
But it's the same though. Like the Premier League, for example, almost all sports codes, they have this. You've got the B grade, and then you get promoted. Like the top of the B grade gets promoted to the Premier League, and if they get smashed, then they go back to the B grade. You know what I mean? Like it gives them, like the people playing at the B grade or A grade or whatever the fuck. I don't follow hundreds of soccer. I know the Premier League and there's promotions and demotions, right? But they don't play against, I don't know, Manchester United, yeah? But if they get promoted, they will, but they don't get to play. Do you know what I mean? It's the same concept. It gives fresh opportunities to players, maybe not at the top currently, a way to get into the top, even if it's just once.
Yeah, so, moving forward, if you got the player base, if you got the event numbers for it, then that's a potential sort of avenue to look down, because it had been done in the past and it did work. Josh ran it quite successfully for a couple of years in that format, and the scene was sort of supportive around him. But like we played 3 games at Epic in a decent sized room that could easily cater another 10 tables. But there was just us 8 players and a TO in the room, so the space isn't an issue. The infrastructure is not an issue. It's just getting the numbers, putting together and putting the pack together and booking it in.
Yeah, I think we've covered all the stuff for anyone kind of talking about this to have an idea. Some of the stuff that's come into my head. I think last year was interesting because there was so much effort. Especially because half the WTC team, both players and coaches, were from Queensland, and we put in so much fucking effort onto that for like 3 months in essence, through almost 4. We were doing nothing other than prep. You know what I mean? Like there was no going to events and things like that. You know what I mean? And so a lot of us are the natural TOs in essence for those type of events, and the Northside guys were just starting up. And they hadn't hit their ground running. Josh, he wasn't running the monthly tournaments that he that he kind of does nowadays, because he was supporting us in essence. So he was there doing the training, he was there helping us with different armies and things like that. So when the Australian team is the resources that were getting pumped into that are taken up in essence, plus all their support, the kind of space and time and effort, but the space to actually go, oh yeah, shit, we should probably hold a couple of these singles events, that just went out the window. There was just so much kind of oxygen taken up by the Australian prep that, as you said, I think there was maybe 6 or 7. I think I only did 3 Brisbane events that whole year. I did ATC, which I cared about. I did WTC, of course. I did, once we got back from WTC, the TNO one, and maybe one other one. Like everything else was dead to me. Like it was just like there could have been something there. It didn't even come past my radar. And we know from being at Erik's or at my place with the prep, the people who would have been running those events or helping run those events, they were there.
Yeah, it kind of became a decision of do we go to this event, play a 2-day event, or do we just smash out 3 or 4 games at Eriks or Simon's amongst ourselves, trying different ideas? Probably gonna get more data from our events in our backyard, because you don't really care about the accolade of trying to go and win an event when you have something bigger on the horizon you're prepping for. And I think that was reflected in this year, because we didn't have, like, Liam didn't play, prepping for WTC and prepping for Atlanta, and he went on a holiday afterwards. Will Milton didn't play Masters. He played last year but didn't play this year. He was doing WTC prep. I don't think he won an event because, again, wasn't playing them. He was doing the backyard prep. So you'll never, I don't think you'll ever get 100% accurate representation of these are the top 8 players for Masters in Queensland, because not all 8 are going to be able to make it. Like Erik and Luke declined their invites this year because they had either stuff they were doing or they just weren't feeling the singles meta, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
last year,
there's still 8 people that earned their invite.
Yeah, all last year, I just said I'm not doing singles. My brain needs to be teams, like almost the whole year. Yeah, I fully concur, mate. That.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this has been, in my opinion, it's been an interesting conversation. I've consolidated and crystallized a bunch of my thinking, and very congratulations, obviously, like on the win and the back-to-back. It'll be great. I think you have to do next year and get the 3-peat, or at least try. Yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely going back for the 3 in a row, and I'm already calling it. I'll be taking Tau, because I want to do 3 in a row, and I want to do it with Tau for all 3.
That's right. So you can then upgrade from duck to goose.
Yeah. My current tower list that I won with is already causing stir in the tower community, so
Ooh.
that's already fun.
Excellent.
Apparently Riptides are bad and Hammerheads are bad and our list was bad, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
It was good enough to make Brody drop out before the event even started, because he was terrified he'd fly up to Queensland and get spanked.
Fuck, I love it. All right, mate. Thank you very much for the chat. Hopefully you guys found this interesting. Duck, can you wrap us up, mate?
Alright, we'll put some wrapping paper on it. Nice little knot, nice little card. You open that card, it says, please, if you like our content, please give us a review on your streaming service. Even a like and share amongst your mates is extremely helpful for the algorithm. We really appreciate everyone who gives us their time and lends their ears to what we have to say. And I hope to have you guys tuning in for the next one. Simon's got a nice little surprise for you, so make sure you keep your notifications on and keep your ears open for the next episode he's about to release.
Very professional. All right, boys. Catch you later.
Give us 5 stars, you dogs.